Go
And
ahead.
all right, we are recording the little presentation. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's been a doozy of the past couple of days. I don't even remember how long exactly it's been, but it feels like an eternity. It has been a constant barrage of bad news, of lots of violence, of lots of unhealthy things, seeing lots of horrible pictures, seeing lots of horrible statements. It's been rough. So the goal that I have for all of us here today, there we go. First, I made a little presentation just to get everyone good to go. And if I get this little screen, then I share the screen. Do people see a presentation?
Looking great.
Looking great. All right. So we'll start with just a brief here. We don't have time to do an in-depth analysis of the complexity of a Middle East conflict, but here is one important thing that recently just happened. So the US is on the UN Security Council. It's the most powerful body in the United Nations. And recently, the US vetoed the UN Security Council resolution on calling for a humanitarian pause to end Israel's bombardment of the Gaza Strip. And it's over 2 million inhabitants. And next slide. Yep. Oh, the resolution would have called for a full, rapid, safe, and unhindered humanitarian access for the UN to deliver life-saving aid to Gaza. It's literally just like, we have UN workers, they have the ability to give aid. We need to let the UN workers in to deliver food, to deliver water, medicine, fuel, critical things that people need just to survive. And the US vetoed it. The US said no. The US said this is unacceptable to us. We are not going to let UN aid workers into the Gaza Strip. And this is really not okay. It seriously isn't okay. Like, it's a horrible situation. There are bombs going off all the time. Civilians that had nothing to do with nation states fighting over each other are being killed by governments that like, if you're a 10-year-old kid, you just were born into the world 10 years ago, and you're being told, like, oh, because of the acts of your country, like, you're now in an active war zone. The kid's like, I'm supposed to be studying geometry, not geopolitics. What the hell's going on? And then they get killed. It's not fair. It's not okay. So that's why we're bothering to be here today, to take action and say to our legislators, like, maybe we should do something about this. Maybe the US should be standing for peace instead of blocking UN resolutions to let aid workers into the Gaza Strip to make sure that people don't die, innocent people don't die. This is a map from the BBC. And here's a quick side note. There is so much disinformation, so be very careful about where you collect your information. Be skeptical of the sources. Mainstream media is indeed, there are biases. That's with every media outlet on planet Earth, but getting the facts right is so important. So to the best of my ability, this is an accurate map. And this is a map of Gaza. And the higher the bar, the more densely populated it is. This is one of the most densely populated places on planet Earth. Over 2 million people, half of them kids. And Israel ordered, like, they said, hey, we're going to bomb the northern half. Everyone in the northern half, get out of the way. And if you're a civilian, you're like a 20. I'm 28. Imagine if I was 28 and I was a young father and I had 2 kids with me. And I had 2 kids, and I was told by a pamphlet dropped from the sky that my house is going to be bombed and I have to go to the southern half of the Strip. What the hell am I going to do? And this is millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people being ordered to evacuate, and they have nowhere to go. It's an open air prison. It's incredibly unfair. It's incredibly unjust. And look, the point that I really want to hammer home is this: war crimes do not justify war crimes. I am so upset when I see people online saying, like, well, maybe this war crime was okay because, a war crime happened earlier. No, it's not. Dead civilians are never okay. Dead kids are never okay. It doesn't matter who's killing who. dead kids, dead civilians. It is not okay, no matter who does it. It should be simple. The fact that we have debates online saying like, well, maybe it's okay if this person kills that civilian or that person kills that civilian. Well, this bomb went off over there, so I want to drop a bomb over here. Dead civilians are never okay. War crimes are never okay. And the fact that we have legislators in Washington who are actively calling to level Gaza, home to 2 million people. What the hell is that? Lindsey Graham on cable news, U.S. Republican senator saying that like we should level Gaza. Think about that for a second. 2 million people. He wants all of them killed. That's a catastrophe. It's unacceptable. And we need people like you. We need people like you who show up to call parties like this and call your legislators and say, hey, I'm not okay with killing civilians. I'm not okay when the US military enables another military to bomb civilians. That is not okay with you, and it's not okay with me. It's not okay with us, and we should do something about it. So that's why we're here. So the goal is this. We're calling for a ceasefire and a de-escalation. Pretty simple. There's whole other debates about like, there are more things to talk about. Like there are disagreements, but we can disagree on this. We need a ceasefire and we need a de-escalation. There needs to be less war, less violence, less casualties, less dead civilians, less dead kids. So we need a ceasefire and a de-escalation. And shocker, not all of our legislative representatives in Washington are on board with that. And that is messed up. So that's why we're here. We just want to call our legislators and say, hey, I'm a human on planet Earth that gives a shit about other humans. I want less bombs going off. I want less dead kids. I want less people being blown up. I want a ceasefire and I want a de-escalation. And if people can't get on board with that, God help us. But this is the simplest. This is a simple ask. It's something we can do. It's something that if you're a politician, it's hard to say like, you know, I actually like it when civilians die. Like that's a hard thing to twist and turns. And politicians will say all sorts of things and twist all words into all sorts of ways. Like human rights are a thing. We need a ceasefire and we need a de-escalation. It's really that simple. And so, okay, rant over. But now we have some other things to talk about. So some people here are not in Massachusetts. That is okay. If you Google fiscal note, find your legislator, then this should be the first link that pops up. You type in your address, and then boom, you got a whole list of every single one of your elected representatives. And that should be, and then you'll be able to find their contact information that way. But if you are a Massachusetts resident, lucky you, we have a list right here of all of your elected officials' Washington, D.C. phone number. And so Congressional District 1 through 9 in Massachusetts, if you don't know which one of these congressional districts you belong to, there you go. You can Google this. It'll say you're elected. For instance, I'm in Massachusetts Congressional District 3. So I type in my address with this fiscal note thing, and then I say, okay, which one is this? I'm 3. Okay, I'm Lori Trahan. There's her number. And then that's how you'll find your number. So I want to take 20 seconds to make sure everyone on this, who at least is in Massachusetts, writes down this number and knows what phone number to call. So we'll just take 15 seconds to just look at the list, get your number. And no, not you, Siri. God, you were, oh, geez. My Siri was trying to record that, well, whatever. Tim Cook can wait. Okay. So if you haven't found your legislator's number, totally fine. Me and Brian will be here to assist you on this advocacy call. And if you, for some reason, can't get to Google, there's the U.S. House of Representatives switchboard and then the U.S. Senate switchboard. And then if you want to call your member of the House, then you can call that number. And then with the Senate, you can call that number and you can say, I want to speak to my senator, they're this person, and then you should be directed to their office. You're probably going to get a voicemail. That's okay. They're still listened to. So to wrap up and to get started on this thing, this is the template for the House, and this is the template for the Senate, virtually identical, except for one key note here at the bottom, which I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but on the last paragraph, the one in the House mentions a ceasefire and a de-escalation by co-sponsoring the Ceasefire Now resolution in the House of Representatives. So what's that? It's basically, it's real simple. It's a resolution introduced, I believe, by Cori Bush, saying we want to publicly declare a ceasefire and a de-escalation. We want the United States to formally declare that we embrace a ceasefire and we embrace a de-escalation. And so that's a resolution. If your legislator is in the House, you can say, hey, please co-sponsor this specific resolution. Now, if you're in the Senate, then we have this. And same thing, except at the bottom, it says instead of co-sponsoring, because, they're in the Senate, the resolution is in the House. So that's a separate thing. They can't co-sponsor a House bill when they're in the Senate. So instead, you can say, please support a ceasefire and de-escalation as outlined in the Ceasefire Now resolution from the House of Representatives. The point is to convey that you want a ceasefire and you want a de-escalation and you want less dead civilians in the world. And we need more people like you showing up and advocating for that. All right. So now, the planned schedule, it is currently 5:14. We are going to leave this template up for the House for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to the Senate. And then if you feel like that you've done what you want to, we'll have some announcements about further ways you can get involved after the phone calls are being made. And I think we are good to go. I have not been able to see many people's faces because I think I can stop sharing for just a little bit. Stop sharing. Okay, good. All right. I see a lot of people in the chat. Okay. Do people feel okay? Do people feel like they have an idea of what to do? I'm seeing thumbs up from Colin. Any other thumbs up? I see some thumbs up, lots of thumbs up. Perfect. That's exactly what we need. And if you are, Ryan, don't worry. I see you in the chat. You say you showed up a little late. We have people here that can help you. We'll get that going. So, okay, I'm going to set a timer and we're going to have about 7 or so minutes for you guys to make a call. I'll be here Brian will be here, I'll be here, and I believe I saw Cole here too, who can sort of provide support in case like people have questions that show up. And I will now screen share the template script. This template is a script that you are free to go off of. You can say whatever you want, but we feel like it's a good starting point. So I think you should be good. I see a hand up. I think we should have a time for questions. So Jen, yes, go ahead.
Could I trouble you to briefly share the page with the phone number so I could screenshot it? I'm sorry, I just missed it when you displayed it before.
I am glad you brought that up because if you have that question, chances are 7 other people here have that question and are very shy. So let's just get that there. Do you see it okay? Oh, I'm here. Brian, is the list up as it should be?
The list is up.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone? I see a raised hand from Jeff. Yes, Jeff.
I don't live in these guys are all live in Massachusetts, right? First off.
Yes, and if you're not in Massachusetts, you can Google this, fiscal note, find your legislator, type in your address, and a list will pop right up to find your legislator. If you know your legislator's name, you can literally type, for instance, like Bob Schmo, contact, and then their DC thing should pop right up.
Legislator, congressman, correct?
For the House, yes,
Right.
we're focusing on the House of Representatives at the moment.
I know mine. What
Perfect.
am I supposed to say during the call?
Good question.
Okay.
This is our template. I will leave this up. I think we can go ahead and say I hereby decree that all of you should begin calling. And use this as a template. If you feel like this part is too strongly worded or that part is not strongly worded enough, or I want to mention this point, I want to mention that point, say whatever you want. It's important that you feel like you're speaking what you want to say. This is a good template. And if you want to mention other things, go right ahead. And let's begin now. And you can either message, try DMing either myself, Brian, or Cole Harrison, just so that we can have people typically muted, so that like if someone's on the call and then people are like, I have a question, then we want it to be relatively quiet. So let's get going. Everyone start calling. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.